and all three of them have been working closely together. And I want to commend all of you for being here tonight and continuing to demonstrate that level of commitment to your country and that level of service to all. Let us start. Who shall I start with first? Mr. Tucson, you're no stranger to the public, but I will start with the man to your left, Mr. Pascal. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Honorable Minister, and thanks for having me again on this program. I am happy to be part of this team, staff of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, headed by yourself and the Permanent Secretary, and also with my distinguished counterparts and colleague, Mr. Itoma James, and long life friend, Mr. Glenroy Tuse. I'm happy to be part of that team. I'm also happy to be part of the ODM team. And I think teamwork is very important as we commit to national resilience activities across the island.
Okay, thank you very much. Let us go across to Mr. Tuse. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Honorable Minister. Let me say good evening to all your listeners, both here and abroad. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm not new to being here. It's always a pleasure, and I think it's just a matter of renewing the commitment to serve the people of Dominica and to ensure that our people are enhanced and have a much brighter future for the population of Dominica. So I'm happy to be here and, of course, to continue to share, inform and educate our people in Dominica.
Okay, Mr. James, good evening to you again.
Yeah, good evening to you, the Honorable Minister, and again, good evening to my fellow colleagues and the listeners of the DBS Radio. It is always a pleasure to be here to just share the information that I have and play my part in the resilience building in Dominica. So, again, I just look forward to the conversation and sharing as much information as I can tonight.
Okay, you're the last one to have introduced yourself, but you're going to be the first to start. Is that okay with you?
Oh, fine with that.
Okay, first let me commend you again for your leadership you have shown so far as a young man leading the Met Office. I believe you have done a fantastic job, you along with your staff, and the future is bright for the Met Office, and the future is also bright for Dominica. I'm one who believes that we have the people with the talent in Dominica to do the job, and once the opportunity is created and they're provided with the tools, they will excel, and you have demonstrated that. I want to actually thank you for that. And in the ministry, I've been trying, of course, to promote and to advance the policy of the government. And then one of the things that we are trying to do is to get both the ODM and the Met Office, to be out there and educating and edifying the public and providing training to everyone, and starting from the schools. And I think so far we are actually achieving that mandate, but there's always more room for improvement. And let us start. I know just last week we had a week of activities, working together with the Met Office, ODM, sorry. And then we had the outlook of the hurricane season actually led by you. Let us start tonight just to give our listeners an outlook of the hurricane season, and maybe as you progress in doing so, to qualify some of the statements that you make. Now, in terms of how many hurricanes that we expect to be formed, and what do we mean by that? What are the implications? Do you get my point? So the floor is yours, or the mic is yours. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, good night. I kind of want to preface what I am saying tonight with some information. I mean, I want to let them know that they should not take the forecast or what has happened in the last few years. Don't let that, lull us to sleep and not prepare as we should, because we haven't had any major impacts in the last few years. And the forecast hasn't really changed that much. For the last few years, we have been forecasted to have above normal seasons, And this year we expect the forecast to be the same again. Well, the forecast is the same again for an above normal season. That is, we expect there to be 13 to 19 named storms. Of that, 6 to 10 of them could become hurricanes and 3 to 5 major hurricanes. There is a 60% chance of the season being above normal, 30% of it being about normal, and just 10% of it being below normal. Again, we have to understand that the forecast doesn't necessarily tell you where any storm will make landfall, or how many storms will make landfall. It is really just a prediction as to how many storms can possibly form within the active area for us, which is the Atlantic Basin. So with that information, I mean, we have to understand that we're talking about probabilities. There's a chance that we could get something happening. There's a chance that nothing could happen. There's a chance that we could have 25 storms and none of them impact us, and there could be 2 and all 2 of them impact us. So what we have to understand is the forecast isn't really a forecast for landfall, but just to explain what the activity in the Atlantic season might be like, and we expect it to be what is considered to be above normal. So the probabilities are that there will be more storms, which means that we have to always be on our P's and Q's, be ready for the probability, the possibility that something could affect us. And we are in the hurricane season. Regardless of if it is above or below, we can be impacted. And the message that the Met Office, the Ministry, the Office of Disaster Management have always been preaching is preparedness above all. Be ready so that in the case that it happens, you are prepared for what happens and you can bounce back faster. Because resilience is what we are trying to build, and that is the only way we can do it. We as individuals have to build that resilience within ourselves and within our homes, so that in the case that anything happens, we know how to bounce back, we know how to protect ourselves and our lives.
Okay, while you're still on the mic, we have been promoting education and to ensure that we provide information to the public and to target every demographic, and that includes the young people, people who sometimes do not listen to the radio or may not be tuned in on the television set, but they have the phones. They are on Instagram, they are on Facebook. There's something else they call TikTok. They call that.
Yeah, TikTok.
Yeah, all these things there. And in terms of, I know you have been having a number of sessions, but what have you done over the years since you have been there to actually ensure that the information is disseminated to the public and to ensure that the education continues?
Well, one of the things that the Met Office has chosen to do over the past few years is try to increase our presence in the social media aspect, because we understand that there is a listenership on the radios and they are ever present. They will get that information all the time, but we know that times are shifting a bit. Even the people who listen to the information on the radio will turn into these Facebook pages to get that information. So we have made a very big effort to try to figure out how we can reach people in the areas where they go out and look for news. So we have decided to change the design of the information, change some of the wording, how we communicate with people, and have that information on the social media, make ourselves available on the social media so that we can reach out to the people and get, grow the masses as to who we give the information to, not just stick to one demographic, but try to get to the younger people so that they too can understand the information and be aware, because they need to be able to act. They have to be able to help at home, do the things that they need to do to prepare. It shouldn't just be for one set. So we have to understand that at the Met Office, we have a young core of people, and we have seen the need for reaching out to people in different aspects, different spheres. So we have been designing information in a way that it is easier to consume. It can work with the different social media platforms, and we are continuously growing. We are still taking feedback from the public. We are changing, trying to make sure that the information that goes out there is in a manner that is understandable and actionable, because we can provide as many alerts as we want. If people don't understand what it is that we put out there, they will not know how to act. So that is one of the things that we have been focusing on. We have our impact-based forecasting, which pretty much is trying to tell you not just what the weather forecast is, but how the forecast will impact you so that you can take action when you see that information. So if you follow our Facebook page, our WhatsApp channels, you recognize that we use images, we use colors, and all of those things can indicate and let you know how to prepare, how to act. So even if you don't completely understand the messaging, the wording, these images and colors will give you an indication as to what you should do or what you should actually expect. So we spend some time going out to schools, doing outreach together with the Office of Disaster Management to help people understand this information that we keep putting out, the different changes that we make, so that when they see the information, they know what to do or how to respond to them.
Okay, great, great. We're going to come back to you momentarily. And when you come back, maybe you want to just prepare your mind to where we are in terms of we now being able to issue our own warnings, our own watches, etc. And what we have done in the recent past to strengthen our capacity in order to allow us to do to issue those warnings and to make better predictions. And so I'm going to go across to Mr. Tuse because the issue of shelters that's so important, and will give us, the status of our shelters right now, where we are in terms of the number of shelters that we have, and people who are going to be in need of shelters. Are we in a better position this year than last year? And we have been working in together, and along with the ODM, the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, to ensure that we provide support to you and to strengthen our capacity to ensure that the buildings that are being used to shelter our people are of the integrity that they ought to be. Let us go across to you, Mr. Tusen, to tell us firstly where are we now in terms of our shelter readiness.
Okay, thank you very much. But before I before I begin, I just want to stress on and to support what Itoma said in terms of the responsibility. I have coined a phrase, the fourth tier of responsibility as far as disaster risk reduction is concerned, and more importantly, as it relates to shelter. So I said there is the individual responsibility. You have a responsibility as an individual for the safety, for your safety and your well-being. That's first. And so you have to do what is necessary. And what is important here is the development of what we call an individual disaster management plan for you. Then there is a family responsibility. The family has a responsibility for the safety of the family members. And so you have to ensure that it's a family plan that you execute, that you have your own alerts, and you have your system in place so as to guard against any major impact of any major weather or other events. And then you have the community responsibility, and that is where you have structures like the disaster management committees and the councils and other interest groups within communities with that responsibility of ensuring that the residents of the community are in fact be given with that necessary tool, as we say, to ensure that they build that resilience at the community level and they can mitigate the impact of any major disaster. And the last one is that of the state. The state have the responsibility. So having said that,
I wanted to go back to what you just said. The state has the responsibility to do what? Because I was saying you just amplify that a bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the state has the responsibility to ensure that the safety net and the mechanism is put in place. And that is why, from a national standpoint, there is NIPO, the National Emergency Planning Organization. It's an organ of the state with certain responsibilities to ensure that the state itself, the country, is so prepared in terms of responding to and mitigating the impact of disasters. And oftentimes, what I want us to understand that there seem to be a heavy reliance on the state. And I think, if we take it seriously and we look at the responsibilities that I've mentioned, there will be, I'm not saying that the state should not have a greater responsibility, but importantly too, the state will kick in when it has to, and with state resources. But certainly we have to ensure that disaster risk reduction and resilience is everybody's business. Similarly, as we say, tourism is everybody's business. And so the state has been, and I want to really commend the government of Dominica for its approach in terms of building the housing stock in Dominica and making our people more resilient. I mean, from Maria to now, government has built thousands of homes by way of individual homes and apartment buildings that have created a sort of atmosphere of safety and resilience for our community members. And it's on that basis that every year we are seeing an improvement in terms of our shelter and shelter stock. So we are much better this year than we were in 2024. And similarly, we were much better in 2024 than we were in 2023. And just to give you some data, why I think it's important for us to understand the significant role that government has played in terms of building our housing stock and improving and enhancing our shelter potential and our shelter capacity. Every year, we are seeing a massive reduction in the number of people who are to be sheltered. For example, this year, close to 400 less people will require to be sheltered by the state, and that is very significant. We are comparing that to last year, for example. We see about 250, but this year really that is significant. I mean, close to 400 people, and so it means therefore a lot of those persons were, importantly, some of the people have improved their homes, but importantly too, that the government has assisted in terms of, I think sometime last year, towards late last year, a number of people were, given the keys for their homes, particularly in the Kalinago territory. So that has caused the reduction. And so I want to further give some statistics. So we're moving, for example, in terms of the requirements and the number of people who needs to go to the shelters. So in last year, 2024, we had 3,570 people. And this year we have like 3,225 people. So that is almost 400. The difference is 400 less people to be sheltered. And we go into the whole issue of shelter capacity. You're talking about the capacity nationally. So we have our shelter capacity in Dominica nationally is much greater than the number of persons who need to be sheltered. So you're talking about we are moving from 7,960, that's our national shelter capacity, to 7,820 nationally in 2025. But you're talking of in 2025, you only have to, in essence, state shelters, 3,225 people. So overall, the shelter capacity in Dominica is overwhelming, and I think that can be attributed in every sense to the extreme work of the state, of the government, in terms of ensuring that we boost the shelter stock. Of course, that is also, amplified with the 3 emergency regional shelters that we have in Jimit, Layu, and Casibros. And of course, that boosts shelter capacity. So we are much better positioned in this year than we were in 2024, and we continue to make progress. Like anything else, and you have indicated as well, there's always room for improvement. And so we have recognized that. And so for this year, we have roughly about 100 shelters for the population. One of the things that we're ensuring that no community is left behind, and that is important. We have to understand that no community is left behind. So even if, and I want all listeners to understand, so even if you would see when published that there is not a shelter named after your community, but there is the arrangement made for persons to be taken to a designated shelter. So nobody is being left behind. We are ensuring that everyone who have taken that decision to be sheltered will be given that opportunity and will be able to be in a safe environment as far as disaster risk reduction is concerned. I want to also stress another significant aspect in terms of state efforts. Of course, in addition to identifying the shelters, government over the years have been spending quite a bit of monies in terms of improving some of the shelters. I will tell you, for example, last year in 2024, government spent close to $2.6 million in improving a number of shelters in terms of retrofitting, rehabilitation, and I want to specifically name those shelters.
Okay, before you go further, let us get the clear here. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Because I wanted to do most of the speaking here tonight. Did I tell you what to say tonight?
Me?
Did I write it down for you?
Oh, not at all, sir. Not
Okay,
at all.
okay, I
Yeah, and you did
understand.
not tell me what questions you were going to ask anyway.
Well, in that regard, right? Specifically, and the reason why I'm saying that I want us to be clear about that. But before you go a little further, in terms of let us try to disaggregate the information, and let us, as you said, that 3,000 people going to require shelter. Is that so?
Yes, sir.
And then you have a capacity
Of
that far
7,000.
right.
Yeah.
Now, where the people who are going to require shelter, are they concentrated in a particular locality, or are they scattered throughout the country?
They're scattered. It's
Okay,
throughout the
fine.
country, yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, and so let us try to highlight some of the areas. Well, last year we had some issues, and what are the arrangements that have been made in areas where we may not have physically a shelter in a particular hamlet, but what arrangement have been made for places like Collyho? You get my point.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then we have dealt with
Yes.
the one for not Granford, but
River Civic.
River Civic.
Yeah, River
that's the
Civic.
matter we have dealt with.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say further, and I'm happy that you made reference to the number of houses that the government has built. Of course, consistent with what the Prime Minister has said in Dominica becoming the first climate resilient country. And of course, resilience begins with the homes, and you have to ensure that you have homes that can withstand, hurricanes, etc. And then having been struck by Hurricane Maria, and the loss that was suffered by the housing stock, you understand? In the housing stock, sorry. When we were talking about in terms of at the time when Dominica was struck by Hurricane Maria, we had a housing stock of 25,414, and only 78 were not impacted. But it means therefore, if you start doing the maths, right, you're talking about if you were to remove 78 from 25,414. Pascal, I know you're good. I too, I know you're good in both of you guys, because you guys are methodologists and stuff like that. That is about 25,336, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, basically, were actually either destroyed or damaged. And it's amazing what you're saying here tonight. We have gotten to a point where most people in Dominica, in 2017, when we were struck by Hurricane Maria, had no shelter. They were wetting. Do you get my point? And 7 years thereafter, is it 7 years?
Yeah, roughly going on
we
eight.
are better off in terms of our housing stock.
Yes.
And I think that is a wonderful story to be told as to how well we have done. But having said that, we still have challenges, and you still have people who are going to need shelters. And that is what we're trying to actually do tonight, to educate the people and to let them know, yo, we are doing as a government what we need to do, and we have the public officers who are there to ensure that the policy of the state are actually effective. And I wanted us to just to highlight that. And so now you can just speak about, as we try to disaggregate that information, the communities that, of course, that we have to ensure that shelters are provided for, and to give the public an appreciation as to where the shelters can be sought.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to add some historical perspective to you for what you've said as well, is that in 2017 we had 166 shelters prior to Maria, and as you indicated, more than 70% of so of those shelters were impacted. So and at that time we had required to have sheltered close to 20,000 people.
Yeah.
8 years later, you're 3,000. So I'm just trying to, we have to draw the comparison.
Yeah.
In 2017, you had to shelter close to 20,000 people. In 2025, you got 3,000. Just look at it in 8 years. So you could see the drastic improvement that has been made in terms of that. But to come to the point in terms of, as I indicated earlier, there are a number of communities that we would not have a physical shelter, but we have made allocations, and I will mention some of them. So for Collyho, we will be taking the people from Collyho to the regional shelter in Layu. The people in Kulbistri will go to the shelter in Monrachet. As I go along Mero, we'll go to the John Caleb Lorna Primary School. The Taro will go to the regional shelter in Jimmet. And so we are taking from Canefield, I just probably have to paraphrase it. We are taking from Canefield back to Taro to the regional shelter. That would include Canefield, Massac, Campbell, Despo, Maho, Jimmet. All of those communities would go to the regional shelter in Jimmet. When we come to the north, we are taking some of the people at Bourne. We are taking some to the Portsmouth Secondary School, and others will go to the Dodan Primary School. When it comes to the east, and of course, as we know, our most vulnerable communities are in the east. So Petit Soufriere, Saint-Sauveur, Good Hope, Mopo, Tranto, Deepa, Cassibrus, they will all go to the regional shelter in Cassibrus. And so we have the Layu Park. Layu Park and Sultan, or Sultan, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it.
Sultan.
I always have some difficulty in pronouncing that community. Sultan. So the Layu Park and Sultan will go to the regional shelter as well in Maho, in Jimmet, the regional shelter in Jimmet. And where have I forgotten? I think Thibault. So we have an arrangement, individual homes arrangement, and also we are also taking those individuals to the Vacas Community Center, which is one of our shelters for that area. So we are so I wanted to, and thanks Minister for bringing it up, because it's important that people understand, because they may hear us and say, but we don't have no shelter in Miro, but they don't know. You may not have a physical shelter in Miro, but we have made that accommodation, and that's been so for a while. So there are about 13 communities where there are not shelters, physical shelters in the communities, but arrangements are being made in that regard. And I want, as we talk, Honorable Minister, for us to understand as well, that people need to understand that once they have made determination, and we're talking and discussion and sharing information, I said that's important. Once you have made that determination that you require, already I said you should have been prepared, so you should have your shelter kit, that kind of thing. We know not everybody will have that opportunity to have that opportunity, as I said, to be able to have that kit, but we would like everybody. Once you have made the determination, I know I should be saying that a little later, but it's early and we need to emphasize it, that people, once NIPO has decided that the shelters are open, you need to go to the shelters. Because we notice what has been happening is that people wait the last minute. They like action, so they wait when the galvanized start to fly. They wait when the drains are blocked. They when there is a little flooding, and then they want to access that shelter, and then it becomes a little difficult or challenging for them. So let's avoid this health risk and the risk of risking our lives. And as soon as the shelters are opened, we're encouraging people within half an hour get to the shelters. And so that is the arrangement that we make. As I said earlier, we have covered everyone. We know where the people are. One of the things that we're doing is to ensure that the people are aware where the shelter is. And that we're saying the first thing you have to do is know your shelter. So please, folks, you have to know your shelter. Once you know that, you will then make a determination whether you believe that you should go there. What we have done, and maybe it's important for the listening public to understand, we have assigned people to shelters, with names. So what we've done, there's an assessment that we do, and we assign people to, we assign people to various shelters. So you hear me talking about the Collier people, but there are names to that. So we know exactly who are the people who have to go to the shelter in Jimmet, in Layu for Collier. So that in itself is a progress that we're making in terms of that. So we know who's going here, we assign people to shelters, and we simply expect people so to do. But importantly too, we have to understand, folks, what is important. We have to understand we have a responsibility. You cannot believe that government is the one to keep you alive. It is your responsibility to keep yourself alive, and that is why we have to take it seriously. I get the feeling that some people think that I don't worry, government's supposed to know. Government has provided the shelters for you. and government will kick in with resources when the need arises. But you have to take that responsibility of ensuring that you do what is necessary as an individual. You do what is necessary as a family. The community does what is necessary for the community members. And as I said, the state will kick in. So we have to take it very seriously. And I know people like the listing. I remember a few years ago, we had a situation where a shelter was overcrowded. The shelter capacity was and Honorable Minister is from your area. The shelter was overcrowded, and the people, we had to get security because the people just decided there are other shelters and it's that one. And the reason why they went in that shelter is because there was some goodies there. You know. So I'm saying that to say, folks, let's just get prepared. It's not a thing that we just have to understand that we have that ultimate responsibility for our own safety as individuals. I have developed that as well, and I tell people I'm taking it from my own. I said to myself, I learned some lesson in Maria. I shall never even rely on the state for food after system. And that's why it's not a thing about not everyone who can do it. That's why every year I ensure that I have a few barrels I have food, so that if anything happens that I can. So I'm lessening the burden on the state in some respect, not to look for the sardines and the this and the that. I will welcome it if it comes, but I'm saying not everyone can do it, but the little that you can do, and Fixroy can emphasize that, the little that you can do is not a big thing. I'm not telling you go on. The mistake that a lot of people make is that, you know, they do the late minute thing and they finish the shelves, and when nothing happens, they blame ODM, they blame the Minister of National Security, they blame Met Office, they blame the Prime Minister, and they blame everybody. But folks, I want us, and I like this sort of exchange, that we understand that the state will provide resources, will provide the shelters. But importantly, you too have to ensure that you go to the shelters if your home is not safe. And when you go to those shelters, there are rules and regulations that govern those shelters. And one of the things that we've done for the last couple of years is we know we have a number of people. We have some other nationals of other countries. And so in order to facilitate the whole process, we have ensured that the shelter rules, we have it in English, we have it in Creole, we have it in Spanish, and we have it in the Chinese Mandarin, as you call it. So we do have that. And so we have to adhere to those rules. So we have made tremendous strides. You know, I want us to understand, and that's why I'm happy the minister has brought into perspective the strides that we've made. We've made strides, but importantly, there's always room for improvement. We are looking for perfection, but it will take some time. And I'm sure that we all have learned, we all should have learned lessons from Maria. And we should not, there should not be this anxiety because we're supposed to be expert and telling the other countries in the world that we're experts on that. There should not be, I'm not saying, you know, everybody has their own way of doing things and acting. But we should have less anxiety because we kind of experts. When we go overseas and everybody wants us to recall our story and Maria and how we have been able to recover and bounce back and all of those things is because of the resilience of our people. And if we are to build resilience, there has to be resilience of the people, of the individual, of the families, of the community. And by extension, once you have the core family, individual and community resilience, then obviously, ultimately, you'll have this national resilience that we want to achieve. And we are very much advanced in achieving this national resilience. And certainly, from not only from a shelter perspective, but I'm really passionate about it. And that's why I'm talking from a general perspective. So yes, I may put a lot of emphasis on the shelter, but I also have to look at the general resilience of our people. I know our people. Sometimes our mouth kind of crooked sometimes, but when the crisis comes, we do come together as a people. But I want us to understand that preparedness is the key. As we have mentioned earlier, we have to be prepared. We cannot wait and say because we've not been impacted for the last 3-4 years that, okay, it's cool, nothing is going to happen, and don't worry, last year they said it's going to be above average and it's not this, it may not be that way, and God is good. Yeah, God is good and he's good all the time, but we cannot be slack and expect God to be good when we just waiting on God to be good and we're not doing what is necessary. It is better you prepare and nothing happens than you are unprepared. That is I think that's ultimate. you're better prepared and nothing happens than you are not prepared at all and something happens. It's going to be worse.
Okay. I promise I'm going to allow you guys to express yourselves because this is your program and there's the moderating, of course, and controlling. But about there. The thing is, before you go, I said you have said much here to Mr. Pascal. What are the basic things that somebody coming to a shelter to overnight, Mr. Tuse, need to have? If you come into a shelter, the call has been made that we're going to expect a bad system, water system, something, and you may have to overnight. What would you advise the people who are going to come to a shelter to carry with them?
Okay.
Should they come with two hands swinging?
Oh no, I always said that. That's my motto. Do not come with your hands swinging at all. The thing that is important, we have to allow our listening public to understand the shelters that we prepare for the state or for the citizens is basically to ride the storm in the first instance. That is what it is. And so if you're riding a storm, which is between 24 to 48 hours, then you have to ensure that the basic thing, I know a lot of people come with a lot of things. So if you feel that people come with we don't have bank books anymore, but we used to have that. So you come with so people come with a certificate. I've seen people come with a certificate of title in shelters, They're not leaving that out there. So those are the things where, yes, you can come with that. Your medication. You have to come with water for at least that will last you at least 3 days. So that would be a couple bottles of water, some canned food and some biscuits, that would last you for at least 3 days. These are the basic things that you come in, and as I said, your medication. We know people who have some medical conditions, so you have to come with your medication. Make sure, I always tell people when you pack in, make sure the first thing you pack is your medication. Those people who are, who have medical conditions. So these are the basic things that you come in. We always tell people you can come with your little flashlights, nothing wrong. Your transistor radio to listen, because it's always good. You listen, you have to listen to the radio even while you're at the shelter.
And no pets.
No dogs, no cats, absolutely no dogs, no animals, right? So I remember we had activated the shelters a few years ago. I think there was something, maybe, was it last year? Was it last year or year before last? And a fella said, where am I going to put my 2 dogs? I said, well, you tie the dog somewhere. You can't come to the shelter with the dog. He said, boy, you have to change that rule because people have pets. People have pets. I check in my dog as if more than a human being. I say, I understand that. So no pets. Okay? What we are asking people to do in your plan of action, you do the necessary preparation to allocate some sort of mechanism for your animals. So no weapons, no ice pick, no guns, no knife, no cutlass. No alcohol will be used in the shelters. I want to make it clear. No drugs. I don't want to say alcohol, and people may be perceiving that I say alcohol, so they can come and smoke their cigarette, they can come and smoke their spliff, or take their other thing. Absolutely no drugs, no pets, no weapons. And we're going as far as weapons even to the eating utensils that you use. All that is weapon.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So it's 12 minutes past 9 o'clock. Good evening to all our listeners, including those of you on DBS Radio Facebook page. Quite a few people are following. And let us go across to Mr. Pascal. Mr. Pascal, the ODM coordinates everything. And sometimes you feel like the entire weight is on ODM. And that is for a reason. But I want to say that there was tremendous thinking to have actually placed the Met Office and the ODM next to each other. And you're seeing that level of collaboration manifesting itself and proving dividend for us as a country in terms of coordinating your approaches and going out there as a team to educate the public. But as we move into the hurricane season, what advice do you have for the people in terms of the potential public hazards that we have? What would you advise the public to embark on to deal with those potential public hazards, and you may want to identify the public hazards, the potential ones.
Yeah, well, okay, Minister, thanks very much. For the hurricane season, we mostly focus on hydromet events, flooding. We have high winds, so rainfall, winds, and seas. One should stay away from the coastline. If you live near the coastline, you should seek safe shelter or safe harbor. For flooding, ensure that you're not in the path of waterways. We know that Dominica has a lot of waterways. Some appear dry during normal season, but can easily be filled during heavy rainfall periods. People living in elevated areas, we have the high winds. So the three most prevalent hazards, Itoma, would be high winds, heavy rainfall, and the storm surge. But just to go back to what my other colleagues have been advocating, we want the general public to become, and I will state, team players. Mr. Tuse mentioned that the national system has its mandate and it executes the operations of the state and what the state has to do to secure everyone living on the island. But we're asking the public to become a team player and ensure that you too take proactive measures to ensure that you secure yourself, your surroundings, your structure. So for your structure would be your roof, your windows, your doors. For yourself, ensure that you have a plan. Mr. Tuse mentioned that if you know you're living in a vulnerable structure or house, you should ensure that you know where your shelter is and know that route to reach there in advance of the storm or the whatever weather system. In terms of your surroundings, your drainage is very critical, and some people overlook that potential of flooding, but your drainage is very important, so ensure that your drains are clear. And also, lately we have been observing a lot of overhangs on the road, so one should ensure that the overhang are trimmed to a comfortable level.
Yeah, in terms of overhangs and clearing of water courses, including ravines and culverts and rivers, have we been able to identify the vulnerable areas and of course come up with some advice by way of a plan to ensure that some prominence in terms of attention is given to these areas that are vulnerable, that we know if we were to have heavy rains will flood, and the rivers that we know will overflow the banks, and of course, so have we done that kind of analysis, assessment, working with the line departments of the state?
Yes, the minister. Well, actually, at the NEPO meeting held on Tuesday, the Prime Minister did mention that we should be focusing on hazard identification and vulnerabilities. The Ministry of Public Works, that line ministry, has some sort of database in place and will share it with the rest of the NEPO structure to ensure that the necessary actions are taken before the peak of the season, in terms of dredging of waterways and clearing of overhangs.
Okay, now we made reference to the need to have your own plan for the hurricane season and disasters on a whole, because hurricanes are not the only potential disasters that we can experience. Now, we just recently had this training, which includes both the private and public sector, where people were trained as to how to prepare the plans, etc. How did that go, Mr. Pascal?
Oh,
and of course, Mr. Itoma was also involved in that too.
Yeah, That went excellent, Minister. So as you know, the ODM coordinates disaster risk reduction programming for NEPO. We achieve this by doing trainings, sectoral integration, which you just mentioned. We look at early warning systems, we look at public information and awareness, and we do community engagement. But to go back to sectoral integration, again, we realize that the ODM is just a part of the broader organization NEPO, and also the whole entire system, the whole national system. So we did this sectoral integration session, bringing in public and private sector to the ODM to ensure that we integrate disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation into their operations, to ensure that they are aware of what they need to do to mitigate against the effects of disasters caused by climate change. And again, this went very well, and we're seeing results in terms of institutions now producing that disaster plan or business continuity plan to ensure that their institution survives after an event.
Yeah. So I want to also express on behalf of the government our appreciation to CINIMA, because they provided some technical support in that training and exercise, and also your staff members of both ODM and the Met Office. I think I was very much inspired and encouraged when I went to the function at the opening to have seen the involvement of the Met officers and also the staff members of ODM working and people receiving the certificate for having completed the course, and we have to do more of that. And then also we had some months ago the schools getting involved in that process, and then we have to now go to the communities and target the homes, and to ensure that every community through the village councils and other social other organizations that operate from the community level can themselves also have the plans. And so that is the way forward that we want to continue to actually carry on with. So, yes. Now, before we go to Mr. Aitoma, in terms of communication, because if you get struck by hurricane, the conventional type communication network always goes, the first to get actually disrupted. But it's important for us to have that level of redundancy. And what have we been able to do over the years to ensure that we have proper radio communication in the event we're to have something similar to Mario?
As you rightly said, Minister, the conventional method of communication will go down. That is the cell phone that everybody rely on. We promote the use of the two-way radio. All the major emergency first responders have had training in that area and also augmented their equipment. The ODM or NEPO has played its part in that we have constructed a repeater hut at Aoja to ensure that we have communication going cross-country from east to west, given Dominica's terrain. The national system has also invested in satellite phones for use for higher level players of NEPO, and most recently we have gone to SpaceX Starlink, where we're going to put some 12 user terminals island-wide to ensure that we have connectivity during and after an event.
I wanted to repeat that because just for emphasis, because this is a very somebody asked me that question yesterday. Do we have that? I want to repeat that the latter part of your intervention just now, Starlink.
Yeah, we have communicated with Starlink, and I think the government of Dominica, the cabinet of Dominica, authorized Starlink, SpaceX Starlink license to operate in Dominica, and Starlink has offered 12 user terminals to the ODM, the national system, and we have decided to place these terminals island-wide to ensure that we have full coverage. When I say we, the national system, the national first responder system, have full coverage during and after an event, because this is a satellite-based service, so it won't be interrupted with landlines and so forth.
Now, and also, have we done training from the community level of
Yes,
people who are going to be leading the way as by way of first responders? And how many of those people we have targeted and trained?
Well, in total training, we have done about 350 persons have been trained thus far. That is from last year to this year. And emergency communications is at the top order, I think 110, followed by shelter management, about 95. We have done also psychosocial support, drone training, training of trainers, but emergency communications have topped the list. I think about 110 persons have been trained throughout the 8 districts, and when I say 8 districts, it's the Kalinago plus the 7 health districts.
Okay,
So
great.
we have done the training throughout the 8 districts of Dominica.
Okay, great. No, that's endless information there. We have already, some 25 minutes past 9 o'clock, almost an hour into the program already, and so much has been said so far. Mr. Itoma, the big man there, also. Yes, in terms of what we have been able to do, what you have been able to do on behalf of the state, on behalf of the people of Dominica, to better enable you to issue your warnings and your watches, etc. We no longer have to rely on any foreign interest to do that, because we have the trained human resource component, and we have the infrastructure, the building, and the equipment. But something happened recently that actually further enhanced your capacity to allow you to do your work. Can you just expound on that a bit, please?
Well, we have a few new updates, a few things that has happened in the Met Office, really. I mean, starting with the fact that we no longer have to go through the Barbados Meteorological Service to announce our alerts and warnings. We have increased our capacity in terms of equipment.
Sorry, if you were to speak more into the mic, please, and thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we have increased our capacity in being able to monitor our events that has been happening around the country. We have more equipment, we can get real-time data that would lead to us being able to alert or issue alerts that can help us in our early warning system. Additionally, we have increased our capacity in terms of knowledge, what we are able to do in the Met Office. We have more qualified people now, which means that we rely a little less on people giving us information and we just giving it to the public, but we do our own analysis now. We can reach out to our counterparts in the National Hurricane Center directly because of that, and it really speeds up our ability to give information to the public. We also have worked really closely with the Cuban Meteorological Service, and they have helped us in developing a model for our forecasting, which has tremendously increased our capacity to be a bit more accurate in what we can do in the information that we provide to the public, because this model that we use, that is being developed by them, is specifically for Dominica. They have taken events, things that have gone on in Dominica, our own data, and put them into that system. And what that does now, it gives us the ability to be a bit more accurate when we give information. So we can still not to the point where we can tell you that this is the exact area in Dominica where something will happen, but it can give us a general area now, rather than we having to tell you the entire country, this is what is going to happen. But we can tell you, okay, in the northern section of the country, this is where it is more likely to happen, because the models are a bit more accurate now in terms of positioning and what we can actually do. So that too has enhanced our capabilities. So we have come a long way in the Met Office. It would be remiss of me though to not mention one of the educational programs that we are about to embark on together with the ODM is to reach out to our fisher folks, because in recent times we have realized that even if we are not hit directly by storms, what happens in the marine sphere still causes some damage, and we think that there's some complacency sometimes in the reaction that we get from the folks, and we think it may be linked a bit to not understanding the information somewhat. And we think that we want to go out to the public, reach out to the especially the people who lose the most in that sector, the fisher folks, the people who live in those areas, to let them know and understand what storm surge is, what it can do, how to react when we give you the information, what the information means, because that too is very important. And I think sometimes it's a bit underlooked because we tend to think about the rainfall and the flooding and the landslides and maybe the damage that the winds can cause, but regardless of those things, we also have the storm surge, because a large percentage of our population live on the coastal areas, and
Yeah.
they tend to take for granted that the sea can also cause some damage. We have a lot of our road infrastructure also being in our coastal areas, so we just want to take the opportunity this time, to reach out to them, to help them understand the information when we give it out, what it means for them and how they should actually react to those things. So we are about to embark on that program, and just get people and try to get them to understand so that they can be responsible and act in a way that can save themselves some money and save their lives too in certain circumstances.
I'm happy you're making that point because it takes me to something else I want you just to briefly touch on. And I think we have spoken about that, was it last year, when the warning was actually discontinued, but you had the sea swells, and maybe there's a greater need to educate the public as to what do we mean by a hurricane or storm warning, and what okay, and when do you remove let's say a storm warning or a hurricane warning, and then that doesn't mean that you're not going to have sea swells. So you may have people saying, "Oh, they removed the warning, but we had raging seas." Do you get my point? So maybe you need to explain that to the public, that a warning, you go according to the wind force. Okay, and then and that is what you go by. That's what the science informs you. That doesn't mean you're not going to have sea swells. Okay, and then you may have some high winds, but it doesn't meet the threshold to issue a storm warning or a hurricane warning. So maybe you want to just qualify that.
Yeah, I think we may need to hire you in the Met office to help us try to give out some of this information. But really, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think one of the things that we need to understand is with the warnings and the watches for tropical cyclones, as in storms and hurricanes, there are specific criteria that need to be met to make these pronouncements. So if you're going to put out an alert for tropical storms or hurricanes, the qualifier for those are the wind speeds. So if we expect the wind speeds to be within a certain range, then we can alert you for tropical storms or hurricanes. Outside of that though, we have other instruments that we really want people to pay attention to, and that is where in the beginning of my information that I was trying to share with you in terms of the impact-based forecasting and what we are trying to do, because we recognize that just giving some of this information on the radio, it may not put you in a position to really understand. So we are trying to put the information on the social media, on our WhatsApp channels, and use imagery, icons, colors to let you understand, so that you can see if there's a specific element that there is going to be something outside of the wind, you can see that one element and recognize that, hey, we have a yellow alert warning for the seas, meaning that, okay, we should be concerned about the seas. It may not be a tropical storm, may not be flooding, but the seas may be, something that you have to concern yourself with. Or it may be simply the temperatures are going to be extremely high. You may see an alert for temperatures. So we have to take into consideration that there are criteria for different things, and as the Met Office, we have to position ourselves where we let people know exactly what to expect. So we have flood alerts and flood warnings. That is when we have rainfall in excess of different amounts that can impact us. So we issue those because of rainfall. So there may be an event that may be of tropical storm force winds, but based on the models, based on everything that we are seeing, the tropical storm force winds may not be affecting us because of the distance that it is passing, maybe because of where in the system most of the winds are and how it is going to impact us, and we may just be experiencing a rainfall event. In a case like that, we may issue a flood warning and let you know that, hey, it's going to have extreme flooding, so you need to take all the necessary precautions for flooding. So understanding the forecast is really something that we want the public to know how to do, and we are really trying to go out there and give the information. Additionally, we try to make use of our social media platforms. We try to make use of the iconology, because in this day and age everything is, an icon for this or emoji for that, and the younger people understand it, and we know the people who listen to the radio frequently, most of the times they understand the information, but you have people who do not listen to the radio and it is not their thing. They may be listening for the first time, that it may be difficult for them to get some of the information. So we try to find different ways to get that information, but even then it still may have a difficulty. So we still want to go out, and we really thank the ODM for partnering with us on most of those, to go out to the public and give them the information that is necessary, help them to understand the forecast, the different aspects of the forecast, and how to react to the information that is being given in the forecast. And usually the ODM will teach them about, the plans and the preparedness part of it, but understanding the forecast and trying to make it actionable is something that we have been working towards. We still have some work to do. There's still, improvements that we can make, but right now we are at a point where most of the improvements that we want to make them with informed feedback from the general public, because they are the people we giving the information, and it is really pointless giving them information that they are not going to understand. So at this point, we are really trying to gather information from them so that we can tailor the information even more. But the alerts, like you said rightly, they have different criteria, and it may confuse people sometimes, but we have to work within the criteria that we have, that are set, so that we know that everything is standard. So whenever we do it, we know that the reaction should be the same. You should be on the same level of preparedness, because this is what the criteria says that we have met. And we try to keep it within the science as much as possible, but understandable and actionable enough.
Great stuff. The thing is, I'm happy that you made reference just now about speaking to the fisher folks. But what about the farmers? Because they rely a lot on the information coming from ODM, and I know you have been working on that also, and to make the some of the words and that we use easier to understand. I know you have been working on that.
Well, I mean, the farmers, they're always very dear to me. My father is a farmer. I grew up in a farming home. That is something that, I really hold dear, and the information that we try to provide to the farmers really and truly has always been something very specific. We have to do very specific programs. We work together with the Ministry of Agriculture to try to determine what the wording is and the best way to get to the farmers, because as it relates to storms and hurricanes and those type of things, what the farmers are going to be able to do is really act before. So if you have crops that may need to be harvested and there's a storm coming, you know that you may have to go and harvest ahead of time. You save as much of your crop as possible. If you have your livestock that you have to save, you need to have your plan as to where they are going to be, how they can be the safest. All of these things are things that farmers need to have and understand, because the information that is given to them really and truly is can affect them in so many different ways, because we have different types of farmers. You have farmers who do vegetables who may get damaged because of the rainfall. Then you have farmers who may be doing, the bananas and the plantains, that the winds may be what they are fearful of. So different farmers may require different information. We have different products that are not necessarily in place for emergencies for the farmers. Is things to help them boost their production and save money, because they understand what the climate and what the season is going to look like. So we have things for them specifically as it relates to emergencies. Though it's really them being prepared and understanding their circumstance and how to react to what will happen based on their circumstance. So an understanding of, again, the different elements and what it can do to them as a farmer is really important, because it's kind of difficult as the Met Office to provide a specific forecast just for farmers when we have such a wide variety of different types of farmers. But we do still try to put products out there for them to help them increase their yield, save money, because of depending on what the season might be. So we still have them at heart, but it's more on a climate services type of platform.
We're just about ready to ask you to give your closing remarks, and but before I do that, I wanted Mr. Pascal to maybe touch on a bit in terms of I'm not sure that I'm going back to the shelters, and you can recall some years ago we were talking about retrofitting some containers, and that could have been used as storage space for our emergency supplies. We just recently, through the instrumentality of SOFCOM and the U.S. Embassy, saw that the Prime Minister was present at the ceremony at ODM, where we opened this annex to the office of the ODM, and also one of the what you like to call the EOCs in Cotton Hill, and what it means for our disaster management infrastructure, what it adds to it in terms of value and coordination. So, and also we have one also in Castlebrook, but it has not been officially opened because we have a few more stuff to be done there. How does that put us, Mr. Pascal, in terms of our ability to respond?
Well, first of all, it decentralizes our efforts, which is key. We can operate from multiple locations. So I just want to go back to your question, but to say that the infrastructure, we have really been boosted in infrastructure, and thanks to the US SOFCOM, in excess of, I think, $50 million. We have seen the regional emergency shelters at Layu, from the CDB, the one at Jimit and Castlebrook from the EU in the tune of $33 million. And then with the US SOFCOM, we have seen 2 warehouses at Jimit, the EOC, that was early 2000s, and coming back to 2022, we have seen the construction of the administrative annex and the Cotton Hill mini EOC / disaster relief warehouse to the tune of about $6.4 million, and that at Castlebrook to the tune of $2.4 million. So if you total all these up, you have in excess of $50 million just on infrastructure for the disaster management network. And like I said, it serves as decentralizing our efforts, so we can operate from multiple locations, not only at Jimit, but the same functionalities we have at Jimit, it is duplicated at Portsmouth or Cotton Hill for now. And like you said, in the near future, we will see this hardware and software at the EOC in Castlebrook.
Now, you have been around for a while, although you're still young. All of you have been around and been to the Caribbean. Because I heard on one of the functions that we had, and I read a comment where somebody said, "Good work, but we still have shelters at schools." But have you seen in the Caribbean, most of the OUCS, any of those buildings that have been built specifically for shelters?
Not as yet, sir.
No, okay.
I will say not as yet,
No,
for
well,
sure.
right. And then
Definitely.
so we have been able post Maria
Post-Maria.
to live up to what we intend to do as we traverse that track of being the world's first climate resilient country, and that has to be manifested in audits, our general disposition, and also in terms of our infrastructure, physical infrastructure. We've seen the road network and then the next program maybe we want to talk about that helps you in the mitigation effort, because you have to be concerned about mitigation too within ODM, with better drains, better returning walls, etc. As we move from going down to the Castable Sam and Carinago territory, and of course we see what's happening right now going up to Grand Bay and Pichley area. So it's a global view as to what needs to be done to get us to that target that we are actually pursuing. So your final words, and we'll come back again. Sorry, our listeners, we wanted to put all the information there, so we're not actually open up the lines. But as we're about to close, if you're able to trap us, you can call and ask a question. But folks, Mr. Pascal, Mr. Itoma, I want to start with you. Your final thoughts and any advice to the public as we wrap up here.
Well, I really just want to end this by congratulating and saying thank you to the team at the Met Office for their continued efforts in ensuring that the public is getting the information that they need to get when they have to get it. This is not something that myself alone is doing. We have a really good team at the Met Office. We have the qualifications. We have qualified people. We have qualified.
I'm happy you're saying that. Means you have the qualification and the confidence in which you display when you say that.
I really want to emphasize, that we have people that are qualified that can actually give the information, because a lot of times we find ourselves competing with other people to give information and getting that, that little backlash that, people think that we are not good enough to give that information. So I think we are a little beyond that now. We are being accepted a bit more by the public, and the information that we're giving is more and more becoming trusted, and we can show our working. We are showing the results, and we have the people who can at least demonstrate that they understand the information and let the public understand that information also. So I really want to give kudos to the team. People have continuously showed their interest in becoming better at the work that we do, and I just want to give thanks to them, because without their help, most of the accomplishments that we make as the Met Office would not be there. So I just really want to say thank you to them. And again, to the general public, always be prepared, because preparedness is key. And like Mr. Toussaint say, you have to do it for yourself. After, the state will do what it needs to do, but you need to do it for yourself, because self-preservation is key.
I am very sympathetic to what you have just said, especially as it relates to competing views. Whenever you go out there and you issue a warning, my phone is hot, and people say, okay, you just saw something on YouTube. You understand? But the fact is, I want to alert the public. Many of the folks on YouTube, they're not trained in the science. They get paid by a number of hits. Okay? So, and some people are actually inspired, I use the word inspired, by weather system, which is strange to me. And some of the folks who are doing that cannot tell you where Dominica is located. They do not know our geography, and they do not know where Dominica is located. And we have to be very careful in setting aside what is coming from our experts in Dominica who know where we are, and other people who are outside and who cannot even tell you where Dominica is on the map. But we have to be very careful with that. Some of the folks are not trained in the science. Now, Mr. Toussaint, your final closing remarks.
I think the clear message here today, moving forward, is preparedness is the key. And from a shelter management perspective, I want to again reiterate the need for everyone who have made the determination to go to a shelter to know the shelter. You have to know your shelter. You have to ensure in your preparedness level that you have your shelter kit, as we call it. And I mentioned it earlier what the shelter kit is. You have to ensure that you have that. And very importantly, you have to go to the shelters early. I keep saying that. Go early. And when you're in there, you be supportive. Let's be supportive of each other. And I want us to really, we will further advance our cause in becoming a resilient nation if we develop a culture of resilience, if it becomes a way of life. And that is ultimately what we want to ensure, that anything we do becomes a way of life. So nobody has to even tell you to be prepared for hurricanes, for storms. We know we have to be prepared, and that is the kind of culture. It will take some time. But if we are able to develop that culture, a culture of resilience, that people will know that what is expected of them, what they have to do, and just like similarly, we have traditions we used to have. Similarly, if we can have that culture, I am pretty optimistic that will advance our cause in becoming the first climate resilient country in the world. Let's all do what is necessary. Let's help each other. Let's care for each other. Let's be each other's brother. Let's be each other's brother's keeper. And let us do it together, because collectively we can move mountains, we can do things, and we can, of course, continue to enhance the image of Dominica and continue to ensure that our country continues to be beautiful and have that design of a resilient nation and the best in the world.
Thank you very much. I have nothing more to say, but we have to allow Mr. Pascal to give his final comments.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Minister. Well, I'm asking, well, first I want to, I Thomas said it, so I want to regard my staff for the hard work. We just had 2 officers come from Colio doing a walkthrough. So we're asking the public, the general public, to meet us halfway. We are putting the effort in terms of public information and education. We're going out there. We had visits today to 2 medical institutions, and tonight we went to Colio to do a walkthrough. So we're trying our best in terms of public information and education. So we're asking the public to meet us halfway, become that team player, show that you are resilient too, and get preparedness to become part of your, like you always say, Minister, your psyche. Get preparedness to become part of you. Hats off to the team at ODM, all those people in the backbench doing the sector integration and the community engagements. Hats off to them. Our district disaster management committees, also I want to recognize them. Even the regional and international partners we have assisting us, I also want to recognize them. But most importantly, I want to ask the general populace to become part of the team and accept disaster management as part of your everyday lifestyle.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here tonight, and our listeners, those of you who also join us live on the DBS Radio Facebook page, and those of you listening from your homes, and those of you listening from your workplaces, and we have people listening from the hospital also and overseas. Thank you very much. Your government has been leading, and your Prime Minister has been providing leadership, and the onus is on us right now to play our part and to prepare ourselves and to get ourselves ready at all times, not only waiting for the hurricane season, but disaster management and mitigation have to be part of our menu of activities, our daily menu of activities. So let us go forward. As we move forward, let us start cleaning our drains and cutting the overhangs and identifying the vulnerable people in our communities and play our part and help each other and to continue to defend this country, and together we can make it, and of course we can withstand any disaster better than before, because we're better prepared this year than ever in the history of this country because of the things that we have done as a people. We are better in terms of human resource, we are better in terms of infrastructure, and we are better in terms of policy direction and leadership. Thank you very much. We'll be with you again some of the first days too. This the last first day of this month for another exciting program from the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs. We'll be talking about the confirmation process, hopefully, the next time we come on DBS Radio with a well-renowned lawyer. Good evening to our listeners, and keep on listening to the number one station, DBS Radio. And thank you, gentlemen, and thank you to all the staff members within ODM and the Met Office, including the cleaners, the messengers, or everyone who has been involved in the process, and also the staff members of Mr. Toussaint's department, and all the chairperson people. I always believe that persons is not a word. So who have been involved in the process so far. Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen. Next time we'll take calls, okay? But tonight we had to just put out the information there. All right, thank you.
For 4 solid rounds of international boxing, presenting the underweight champions of the world. Let's get ready to run!